Details and insight into what's happening down in Georgia when it comes to that race, plus just the ongoing audit and recount right now in that state. We're joined by a member of the Georgia House of Representatives, our good friend, Democrat, but Trump supporter, and my buddy, Vernon Jones. Hey, Vernon, how are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. You heard that story right before we started your interview. Could we maybe get you on board to convert these California Democrats that might move to your state, turn them Republican?
Well, what I'd like to do, first of all, is speak immediately to the Secretary of State's office. And I think all people who come in to register, starting now, who come in to register, those registrations need to be looked at and see if they can verify how long they've been living in the state of Georgia. Because they're telling you right now, they're committing fraud. They're coming here just to vote for this election. Doesn't mean that they're moving here. They're just really coming here, requesting the ballot, giving an address, and saying they're leaving here and then go back to California. That's an issue. But at the same time, we're seeing now where text messages are going to voters from a group called Black Votes Matter. And they're literally telling you, if you don't ask you first, have you gotten an absentee ballot yet? And if you say, no, I plan to vote in person, they're literally start telling you that the Republicans are depressing you and suppressing your vote. And you need to quickly get a ballot and turn in and vote for a Republican, for a Democrat. That's voter suppression. That's voter interference. That's another issue. This thing has all been halted. You can look at trace this back. Stacey Abrams and that group they call unfair. They call them fair fight. I call them unfair fight. This thing is tainted with their hands.
Yeah. I mean, we have got now, today is what, the 17th. This vote is taking place January 5th, will be the special election. Is that correct in your state?
That's correct.
And now, a lot of people are making a lot to do about both these races. I would say one is a little more clear-cut than the other, and you tell me, you're on the ground there. The Loeffler race, you had Collins in there, so the original vote on Election Day was divided three ways. If you put all those other Republican votes in her category going up against her competitor in January, she should clearly win as long as it's fair and legal votes that are counted. Wouldn't you think on that one?
Well, again, I don't see the blue wave in Georgia. They retained pretty much the House. There was maybe a change of a seat here or there. There was no blue wave. You would have thought those blue waves would have been reflected in the legislative seats, both House and Senate. So it goes to tell you both of those elections, all those elections from the president to the two U.S. Senate races, there is some tape there. There's a dead cat on the end of that line. And we're going to find out now whether it's before the election or after the election, but it's going to come to light.
Got to ask you about these two other things that have been breaking this week and over the weekend. The first, the audit and recount in your state. A lot of GOP folks that have been down there on the ground have been claiming that even during the audit, they weren't allowing the GOP observers close enough to actually see what was on the ballot. Are you hearing the same? And has any of that been rectified if it's been happening?
Absolutely, that's part of the problem. And not because the Secretary of State is a Republican, but he should be more involved because his election is going to be up 2 years from now. He would want a fair count. He would want those poll watchers to be able to be in a position where not interfere, but to be able to properly observe what is going on. And that is not happening right now. So there's some disappointment there. That's why I said this is more than just voter fraud. This is election fraud. It's just too wide open. It's the machines. It's the software. It's those mail-in ballots. It's when poll watchers are allowed or not allowed to come in. This is election fraud. It's far more comprehensive.
Yeah, Vernon, I'm so glad that you pointed that out and clarified for folks, because I think everybody, kind of hits this with a broad brush and says voter fraud. Then you're putting the blame on actual voters doing something illegal. That may or may not have happened, although I believe it has, because we've seen so many cases of this and affidavits signed by regular American citizens saying, I saw this worker do this. Well, then that worker is committing voter fraud. Or if a voter goes out and grabs some and harvests ballots and changes them. But what you're alluding to is election fraud. That's where we have this Dominion software company that could have changed hundreds of thousands, if not millions of votes, where you have county registrars that lean to the left who maybe threw out ballots or ran Biden ballots through 7-8 times 50. All these things are coming to light. So there is both out there, voter fraud and election fraud. Thank you for clarifying. Let me ask you about the 2,600 mysterious votes that showed up on a flash drive or something that came from a smaller county and then appeared a couple days ago in Georgia. Where were these votes at? Why were they stored somewhere and then not given to the state to count?
But see, that goes back to what I just said about election fraud. There are so many different things going on in so many different places, so many different areas. So on a comprehensive basis, there's so many irregularities, not just limited to one area. It's limited. I mean, it goes to multiple areas. In other words, are the ballots being gotten in on time, and are they counted accurately? Are they legally counted? Do we see we're harvesting of mail-in ballots? There's so many different areas, and from the beginning to the end, this entire process needs to be reviewed, not just from one area. But that's interesting. Here's what's even more interesting. How can one county take a week to count its ballots, but the whole state of California can count theirs within 24 hours? That something's just not right about that.
And what's the population of your state, Vernon?
My state is about 13 million people, but that one
million.
county, let's say one county.
Almost 40 million in California, right?
Right, 40 million in California. And one county, not my state, but just one county, Fulton County, which has about 800,000 registered voters. How can 40 million be counted and 800,000 can't be counted within 24 hours?
And Fulton County typically leans, Fulton County typically leans which way, and what major city is in
Democrat.
Fulton?
The city of Atlanta itself, it leans Democrat. Yep. And so even in neighboring county, DeKalb County, it took several days for it, and that's my home county, probably one of the more populous counties, Gwinnett County, one of the more populous counties. Why weren't all of those counties counted within 24 hours? And all these ballots coming in from different places, how did that happen? Who really oversaw that? What were the true facts about those ballots? Where did they come from? Did they get there on time to be counted? Or could someone have just made a decision at the local election office? Well, we're going to count them regardless. That's the whole process. There's no oversight in these elections. And we don't fix this and fix it now. You're going to see more stuff than just happening where people want to just come in and register and leave. They're not going to come in and leave. They're just going to have an address, contact the Secretary of State's office and get a ballot, and they're going to register and they'll vote. Now, if nobody else votes in that election and they voted for that same person's address or that same individual, then it's going to go counted. Nobody will even know what happened. So this thing is the good thing about this, it really exposed election fraud. Yeah. And we're not a third world country.
Well, and I know that most of the major media outlets yesterday called your state for former Vice President Joe Biden. We here at Real America and One American News are not going to do that until every legal vote is counted, and we know that the count is fair and just. So Georgia, still in the middle column. We're not giving it either way. We'll see how it all pans out. Vernon Jones, thank you so much, man, for sticking to your convictions and speaking up and standing up for the president and for a fair election. We appreciate it.
You got a deal. Thank you.